In Chapter 7, we recorded the purchase of inventory for a merchandising business. In Chapter 8, we will be recording the sale of merchandise to customers. You can record sales in either the General Journal or in the more efficient Sales Journal. Let's take a look at Problem 8-4A in your textbook on page 375. There you will see sales transactions for La Prava Enterprises. All sales terms are 210 net 30. Okay, the first transaction says we sold merchandise on account to Linda Sayers for $245. Okay, so since this was a sale of merchandise on account, we can enter this transaction into the sales journal. So we'll enter the date, the invoice number. The book tells us to begin with 101. We'll enter our customer's name because we will need to update that person's accounts receivable ledger, and the amount. Okay, so that entry's done. On the 4th, we sold merchandise on account to Marion Parks for $340. Okay, we'll do the same thing in the sales journal because it is a sale on account. So on the 4th, invoice 102, our customer is Marion Parks, and the amount was for $340. On the 5th, we issued a credit memorandum to Marion Parks for damaged merchandise for $50. Okay, so keep in mind that sales returns will not fit into the sales journal, nor will they fit into the cash receipts journal. So the only place we can put a return is in the general journal. So on the 5th, we will debit sales returns and allowances for $50, and then we will credit accounts receivable Marion Parks for $50. And we'll put an explanation return of merchandise. Actually, it was damaged, so we'll put that notation there. Okay, so keep in mind that the sales returns and allowances account is a contra revenue account. It is the opposite of the sales account, which means it has a debit balance. So this is where all our sales returns and allowances will show up. On the 9th, we sold merchandise on account to Dave Langland, $560. So since that is a sale on account, we can enter that in our sales journal, and it is much faster. And the amount was $560. On the 11th, we received a check from Linda Sayers for the amount due today. Okay, notice the text is not telling you the amount due. You have to figure that out. So Linda owed us $245, and this is a cash receipt, so we will be entering it over in the cash receipts journal. So on the 11th, our customer is Linda Sayers, and she owed us $245, and if she pays within 10 days, we're going to give her a 2% sales discount, because remember that the terms of all sales are 210 net 30. So if we look back at the original sale, Linda Sayers' sale was invoiced on January 2nd. She is paying us on the 11th, so that is within 10 days, so she'll get a 2% discount. So first of all, we have to clear out the full $245 that she owes us, because we debited her accounts receivable account for $245, and now we're going to credit it to clear it out. We will enter this 2% sales discount, so 2% of $245 is $4.90. So she actually sent us a check for $240.10. On the 12th, we sold merchandise on account to Classic Cuts for $500. So on the 12th, invoice 104, the customer is Classic Cuts, and that was for $500. On the 14th, we received a check from Marion Parks for the balance due on her account. Okay, let's see what we've got going on for Parks. She owed us $340. She returned $50, so she owes us $290. However, let's see if she's entitled to the discount. Her original sale was on January the 4th, and she's paying us on January 14th, so she is entitled to the 2% discount. So on the 14th, we will enter our customer, and the amount she owed was $290 after the return. So the sales discount, 2% of $290 is $5.80. So we received a check from Parks for $284.20. I've gone ahead and finished entering the remainder of the transactions in our journals, and I've totaled the sales journal and the cash receipts journal to make sure that debits equal credits. Now it's time to post. I'll post the sales journal first. So we have a total of $5,050. This total will go two places. We're going to debit accounts receivable for the $5,050 and credit sales for $5,050. So if we go over to our general ledger, let's first do accounts receivable. Now we always post our special journals, the totals at the end of the period. So this will be the 31st. This comes from sales journal page 1. The debit is for $50.50, so that gives us a $50.50 balance because we don't have an existing balance yet. All right, the account number is 112, so I'm going to come over and enter 112 into one of the posting reference columns. Then we'll go to the sales account and give it a credit of $5,050. So the same date at the end of the period, the 31st, from sales journal page 1, we'll give it a credit of $50.50 and bring over the balance. So the account number is 411, and we enter 411 here in the other posting reference column. Now this isn't the end to the posting. We have to update our accounts receivable accounts here. So for every customer we have to update their account, and this should be done actually on a daily basis. So on January 2nd, Linda Sayers has a debit to her accounts receivable account of $245. So let's find Sayers. That was on the 2nd. That came from the sales journal page 1. She had a debit of $245, so we'll bring our $245 over, and we'll go back to our sales journal and enter an X here to show that we have posted that. It's supposed to be a check mark, but it's kind of difficult to enter a check mark in Excel. The next transaction is on the 4th to Marion Parks for $340. So we want to come in and find Parks accounts receivable ledger. So on the 4th, from sales journal page 1, there's a $340 debit, and we just bring the $340 over. Then we want to show that that's been posted and updated, so we'll enter an X. Dave Langland on the 9th, has a debit to accounts receivable of $560. So we will find Langland. That was on the 9th. From Sales Journal, page 1, a debit of $560, so his balance is a debit of $560. And then we come over and show that that has been posted. Okay, so you will post the remainder of these in a similar fashion. So now let's go over and post our cash receipts journal. First, we'll post the totals. We've got a sales credit of $12,735. So we're going to go over to our general ledger sales. That will be posted at the end of the period. It's from Cash Receipts Journal, page 1. And we have a credit of $12,735. And if we add a credit and a credit, we get $17,785 as our balance. Okay, so we need to come over and enter our posting reference on our Cash Receipts Journal. So that was account 411. Accounts receivable gets a credit of $2120. So we'll go to the general ledger and enter Cash Receipts Journal, page 1 as our posting reference. We have a credit of $2120. So in accounts receivable, if we have a 50-50 balance, which is a debit, and we have a $2120 credit, then our balance is $2930. Then we'll go over and enter the posting reference here. Sales discounts gets a debit of $4240. So we'll find the sales discounts account on the 31st. Oops. The debit is for $4240. So our balance is $4240. And then our posting reference is 411.2. Cash gets a debit of $14,812.60. So we come to our general ledger, find our cash account. This would be posted on the 31st from Cash Receipts Journal, page 1. $14,812.60 was our debit, and so we'll just bring that over as our debit balance. And then we need to go in and enter our posting reference of the cash account number, and that's 111. Okay, just like the sales journal, we've got to come in and update our customer account. So on the 11th, Sayers accounts receivable account was credited for $245. So over in the accounts receivable ledger, on the 11th, Sayers from Cash Receipts, page 1, got a credit of $245. So now her balance is 0. So we'll need to show that that's been posted by entering an X in the posting reference column. Marion Parks accounts receivable got credited for $290 on the 14th. So on the 14th, we from Cash Receipts, page 1, we got a $290 credit. So if we'll take the $340 debit and a $290 credit, the difference is $50. Remember that Parks had the return of $50, which we will post the sales return a little later from the general journal. Okay, we want to come back over here and show that this has been posted. Cash sales, that is not a customer, so it's not, we don't have to go to the accounts receivable ledger. Dave Langland on the 19th, accounts receivable got credited for $560. Okay, so let's find Langland. That was on the 19th from Cash Receipts, page 1. And he had a debit a credit. So we'll move this down. There must have been something in between for him. So he had a credit of $560, and we'll wait and enter that balance a little bit later. So let's show that we've posted Langland. Okay, now let's post some of the sales returns from our general journal. Okay, we'll go to the sales returns and allowances, general journal, general ledger account. So sales return on the 5th. It's from general journal page 1, and it's a debit of $50. So we'll bring our balance over. Okay, and then we'll need to enter our posting reference, and that was 411.1. Okay, then Marion Parks accounts receivable gets credited for $50. Okay, this is a customer, so we're going to have to post this twice, once to the general ledger and then once to the accounts receivable ledger. So first we'll go to the general ledger under accounts receivable, and that was on the 5th. It's from general journal page 1. We have a $50 credit, so if we have a debit of $29.30 and a credit of $50, then our balance is $28.80, and the posting reference is 112. Okay, we're not done. We've got to go to Marion Parks accounts receivable account. Okay, so we'll find Parks, and that was on the 5th from general journal page 1, and then we had a credit of $50. So an existing balance here is a debit. If we credit it, then Parks's balance is 0. So we will come over and enter a backslash and an X to show that we've posted this twice. Hopefully you've seen enough to get you through the rest of the problem and problem 8-5A. Please give me a call if you have any questions.